If you're currently studying for the CCNA, I need you to hear this before you spend another hour studying. Cisco just announced one of the biggest changes to the CCNA certification we've seen in years. The new CCNA version 2.0 officially launches on February 3rd, 2027. And naturally, the moment this announcement dropped, people started asking the same questions. Should I stop studying for the CCNA? Am I studying outdated material? Is Cisco removing networking topics? Why is AI suddenly a part of the exam? And is the CCNA still worth getting? And most importantly, what this means for your career if you're trying to become a network engineer. Because after reviewing Cisco's announcement and going through the blueprint, I think a lot of people are looking at this update completely wrong. The biggest story isn't what Cisco added, it's why they added it. And once you understand that, everything starts to make a lot more sense. Now, before we get into the changes, let me answer the question that probably bored most of you here. No, you should not stop studying for the CCNA. Let me say that again. Do not stop studying. I'll explain why later in the video, but I've already seen online where people are talking about waiting until 2027, putting their studies on hold, or wondering if everything they're learning today suddenly becomes useless. In my opinion, that's a mistake, because the fundamentals of networking are not changing. So let's talk about why Cisco is making these changes in the first place. Because when you understand the reason behind the update, the entire announcement starts to make a lot more sense. The first thing you need to understand, networking jobs today look nothing like they did 10 years ago. Think about what a network engineer's job looked like back then. Most environments were on-prem, applications lived inside company data centers, users worked from the office. Cloud services were still relatively new, and many organizations treated networking and security as completely separate teams. Your primary focus was building and maintaining infrastructure. You configured routers and switches, you configured routing protocols, you troubleshoot connectivity issues, and if everything was online and communicating properly, you were doing your job. Fast forward to today, and environments have changed dramatically. Users are working remotely, applications live in Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and countless SaaS platforms. Identity systems are cloud-based, security is integrated into almost everything, and organizations expect engineers to understand far more than routing and switching. Today's network engineer might have to troubleshoot a problem involving cloud connectivity, some identity services, firewall policies, some application connectivity, and maybe some security controls. And sometimes all at the same time. Think about that for a second. A user can't access an application. Where do you even start? Is it DNS? Is it a firewall policy? Is it an authentication issue? Or maybe it could be a VPN issue. The reality is that modern environments are far more complex than they were even 5 years ago. Networking hasn't disappeared, it's expanded. And that's exactly why Cisco decided the CCNA needed to evolve. According to Cisco, the new certification is built around 4 major pillars. You have network infrastructure, troubleshooting and problem solving, a security-first mindset, and AI and modern network operations. When I first saw those 4 pillars, one thing immediately stood out. Cisco isn't trying to replace traditional networking. They are trying to modernize it. And that's a huge difference. Some people hear words like AI, automation, and cloud, and immediately assume Cisco is abandoning routing and switching. That's not what's happening here. Cisco understands something that employers have understood for years. The most valuable network engineers aren't the ones who can memorize the most commands. They're the ones who can solve problems. They're the ones who can troubleshoot. They're the ones who understand how different technologies work together. And that's exactly what this update appears to be targeting. Now, to really understand why Cisco is making these changes, we need to take a quick look at how networking itself has evolved over the last decade. Because once you see how industries have changed, you will understand why the CCNA is changing too. Now, before anyone starts panicking, let's talk about what isn't changing. Because I think this is where a lot of people are misunderstanding Cisco's announcement. The current CCNA isn't disappearing tomorrow. If you're already studying for the 200-301 exam, just keep going. Don't put your studies on hold, and definitely don't wait until 2027. And definitely don't convince yourself that everything you're learning today is suddenly worthless. Cisco has confirmed that the current version of the CCNA remains available until February 3rd, 2027. That means you still have plenty of time to complete your studies, write the exam, and earn your certification. But here's the more important point. The knowledge you're learning today isn't going anywhere. Think about it. IPv4 still exists, subnetting still exists, VLANs still exists, routing and switching still exists, OSI concepts still exists, TCP/IP still exists. Default gateways still exist. Notice what I'm getting at? The foundations of networking are not changing. What Cisco is doing is expanding the certification, not replacing it. It's similar to what happened when cloud computing became mainstream. Learning networking didn't become less important. If anything, networking became more important because cloud environments still rely on networking concepts. The same thing is happening here. Networking fundamentals remain the foundation. Cisco is simply building more skills on top of that foundation. And honestly, if I was a hiring manager and I had to choose between two candidates, one who understands routing and switching extremely well, and another who knows a bunch of automation tools but has weak networking fundamentals, I'm choosing the person with strong networking fundamentals every single time. Why? Because tools change, platforms change, technologies change, but networking fundamentals stay relevant. That's why I don't think people should be waiting for the new exam. Start learning now, build your foundation now, and when the new version arrives, you'll already be ahead of the game. Now, let's talk about what I think is one of the most important changes in the entire certification. And that's Cisco increased focus on troubleshooting. When I first saw that troubleshooting and problem solving were being emphasized, I smiled, actually smiled, because in my opinion, this might be one of the most realistic changes Cisco has made. Think about what network engineers actually do every day. Most engineers are not spending 8 hours configuring brand new routers and switches from scratch. Most of us are solving problems, we're investigating issues, we're reviewing logs, we're tracing traffic flows, we're reviewing firewall policies, and we're trying to figure out why something that worked yesterday suddenly stopped working today. That's real networking. Let me give you an example. A user calls the help desk and says, I can't access the application. Sounds simple enough, but where do you even start? Is the application down? Is DNS resolving properly? Is the firewall blocking traffic? Did someone modify a security policy? Is the problem affecting one user or everyone? Notice something important? None of those questions involve memorizing commands. They involve critical thinking, they involve troubleshooting, they involve understanding how multiple systems interact with one another. And that's exactly what employers want. I've worked in networking long enough to tell you something. Some of the best engineers I've met weren't the people who could recite every command from memory. They were the people who could walk into a problem, stay calm, ask the right questions, and systematically work towards a solution. That's a completely different skill set, and it's incredibly valuable. Here's another example. Let's say users in a branch office suddenly lose access to a resource. You start investigating, the interfaces are up, the routes look correct, the firewall logs look clean, connectivity appears normal, and everything looks fine. Yet, users still can't access what they need. Eventually, you discover the issue is DNS. And if you worked in IT for any amount of time, you probably were laughing right now. Because you've heard the joke, it's always DNS. And honestly, sometimes it really is. The point is, the problem wasn't necessarily the network, but the network engineer still had to investigate and identify the root cause. This happens all the time. Sometimes the problem looks like networking, but turns out to be an application issue. Sometimes it looks like a firewall issue, but turns out to be routing. Real environments are messy. Applications evolve, and users don't always describe the problems accurately. The ability to troubleshoot is what separates a technician from an engineer. And I think Cisco recognizes that. Instead of focusing purely on configuration tasks, the new CCNA appears to place greater emphasis on understanding how systems work together and how to identify problems when things break. Personally, I think that's one of the smartest changes in the entire update. Because at the end of the day, employers don't hire network engineers because they can memorize commands. They hire network engineers because they can solve problems, and the engineers who become truly valuable over time are almost always the ones who develop strong troubleshooting skills. Now, there's another major area where Cisco is making significant changes, and this one shouldn't be a surprise to anyone: security. This change was probably overdue for years. There was this idea that networking and security were two completely separate career paths. You became a network engineer first, then maybe later you moved into cybersecurity. Or maybe a separate security team handled all the security related responsibilities. But modern environments don't really work that way anymore. Today, networking and security are deeply connected. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Think about some of the things network engineers are responsible for every day. Who designs network segmentation? Who creates VLANs? Who manages VPN connectivity? Who controls how traffic moves throughout the environment? Who determines which systems can communicate with each other? Network engineers. And every one of those decisions has security implications. A poorly designed network can create opportunities for the attackers. A properly designed network can dramatically reduce the risk. This is one of the reasons why modern organizations increasingly expect network engineers to understand security concepts. Not necessarily at the same level as a security architect or a security analyst, but enough to make informed decisions, enough to understand risk, enough to build secure networks. Today, it's becoming increasingly common for network engineers to understand concepts like zero trust, network segmentation, least privilege access, identity-based access controls, secure remote access, threat awareness, and security monitoring. These aren't just security concepts anymore. They're networking concepts too. Let me give you an example. Imagine a company has accounting systems, HR systems, servers, and employee workstations, all sitting on the same flat network. Now imagine a workstation becomes compromised. What happens next? An attacker may be able to move laterally throughout the environment, jump from system to system, escalate privileges, and potentially access sensitive information. Now compare that environment where systems are properly segmented, different departments are separated, critical systems are isolated, access is controlled, traffic is monitored. The attack surface becomes much smaller, the environment becomes much harder to compromise, and much of that security comes directly from networking decisions. That's why Cisco is emphasizing a security-first mindset. Security is no longer something that gets added after the network is built. Security has become part of the design system itself. And that's exactly what we're seeing across the industry. Organizations are no longer building networks first and worrying about security later. They're designing both from day one. Now, if you've been following networking or cybersecurity over the last few years, you've probably heard the term zero trust. It's one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around constantly. But the concept is actually pretty simple. Never trust, always verify. That's the basic idea. In the past, many organizations operated on a perimeter-based security model. If you were inside the network, you were generally trusted. If you were outside the network, you weren't. But modern environments don't really have a clearly defined perimeter anymore. Users work remotely, applications live in the cloud, employees connect externally. Devices move constantly. The traditional perimeter has become blurry. And because of that, organizations are shifting toward models where every connection is verified and validated. Every user, every device, every application, every request. Again, networking and security working together. The reality is that future network engineers will almost certainly encounter these concepts throughout their careers. And Cisco appears to be preparing candidates for that reality. Now, here's something I find particularly interesting. As someone who works with enterprise networking and security technologies, I can tell you firsthand that many networking roles today already overlap with security responsibilities. A firewall isn't just a security device. It's also part of networking. VPN connectivity isn't just security, it's networking too. Network segmentation isn't just security, it's networking. Threat prevention systems sit directly in the path of network traffic. Identity systems influence network access. Security and networking are becoming increasingly intertwined. In many organizations, the line between network engineering and security engineering is becoming thinner every year. And that's why I think Cisco's increased focus on security is actually one of the most practical updates in the new CCNA. The certification is evolving to reflect the responsibilities of many engineers already have, not the responsibilities that they had 10 years ago. Now, while security is one of the biggest additions people are talking about, there's another topic generating even more discussion, and that's AI. The moment people saw AI mentioned in the new CCNA blueprint, social media exploded. People got excited, some people got nervous, and some people immediately started asking the same question. Why is AI suddenly part of networking? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. Because AI is already being used in networking and security today. This isn't some futuristic technology that may arrive 10 years from now. It's already here. It's already deployed, and it's already helping organizations manage increasingly complex environments. Now, Cisco is not expecting CCNA candidates to become machine learning engineers. You're not going to be building AI models. You're not going to be training neural networks. You're not suddenly going to become a data scientist. That's not the point. The point is understanding how AI is changing the way networks are monitored, secured, and operated. Think about how much data exists inside an enterprise environment. Every switch and router generates logs. Every firewall generates logs. Every endpoint generates logs. Every application generates logs. The amount of information being generated is absolutely massive. In many environments, it's impossible for humans to manually review everything. That's where AI is becoming useful. Modern platforms can analyze huge amounts of information, identify patterns, detect anomalies, and help engineers identify issues much faster than traditional approaches. For example, imagine a branch office suddenly starts experiencing connectivity issues. Traditionally, an engineer might spend hours reviewing logs, checking routes, analyzing firewall policies, reviewing interface statistics, and trying to identify the root cause. Today, AI-assisted platforms can help identify abnormal behavior much faster. They can correlate events across multiple systems, identify unusual traffic patterns, highlight potential root causes, and dramatically reduce investigation time. Notice something important here. The AI isn't replacing the engineer. The AI is helping the engineer. That's a very important distinction. And we're already seeing this happen in cybersecurity. Modern security platforms are using AI to identify suspicious behavior, detect emerging threats, analyze attack patterns, and improve threat prevention capabilities. As someone who works with enterprise security technologies, I've already seen examples of AI becoming part of modern security operations. Security vendors are investing heavily in AI-assisted detection and response capabilities. They're using AI to analyze enormous amounts of security data and identify threats that would be extremely difficult for humans to find manually. And honestly, that makes sense. Attackers are becoming more sophisticated, networks are becoming more complex, the amount of data continues to grow. Organizations need better tools, and AI is becoming one of those tools. Now, whenever AI comes up, there's another question that inevitably follows. Will AI replace network engineers? Personally, I don't think so. In fact, I think people are asking the wrong question. The better question is this: how will AI change the way network engineers work? Because that's what's actually happening. Think about calculators. Calculators didn't replace accountants. They simply allowed accountants to spend less time performing calculations and more time analyzing information. The same thing happened with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets didn't eliminate finance professionals. They made them more productive. I think AI will have a similar impact on networking. Imagine an AI assistant helping engineers narrow down possible causes of a network issue in seconds instead of hours. Those capabilities don't eliminate the need for engineers. Someone still needs to understand the network. Someone still needs to validate the recommendations. Someone still needs to understand the business requirements, and someone still needs to make the decision. And overall, someone still needs to implement the solution. AI becomes another tool in the toolbox. And just like every major technological advancement before it, the engineers who learn how to use the tool effectively will probably have the advantage. I think that's exactly what Cisco recognizes. The next generation of network engineers won't just work with routers and switches. They'll work with automation platforms, they'll work with cloud environments, they'll work with security technologies. And increasingly, they'll work alongside AI-assisted systems. That's why Cisco is introducing AI concepts into the CCNA. Not because it's replacing networking, but because AI is becoming a part of networking. And honestly, I think Cisco would be making a mistake if they ignored it. Because whether we like it or not, AI is already becoming part of the environments we'll be working in. Now, with all of these additions, the next obvious question becomes, what exactly is changing in the exam itself? What topics are staying? What topics are being added? And most importantly, what does this mean for someone trying to break into networking today? Now that we've talked about why Cisco is making these changes, let's talk about what this actually means for people studying for the certification. Because at the end of the day, most of you watching this video probably don't care about Cisco's internal strategy. You care about one thing. What does this mean for me? According to Cisco's published information, the new CCNA continues to focus on core networking concepts. You will still be learning networking fundamentals. You will still be learning routing and switching. You will still be learning network connectivity. You will still be learning network access. You will still be learning infrastructure concepts. In other words, the foundation isn't disappearing. And I think that's an important point to emphasize, because some people are acting like Cisco completely rebuilt the certification from scratch. That's not what's happening. The core foundation is still here. What's changing is that Cisco is placing greater emphasis on troubleshooting, security, automation, AI awareness, and operational skills, which I think is a good thing. One of the biggest criticisms I've heard from people entering IT is that certifications feel disconnected from real-world work. You learn concepts, you pass the exam. Then you get into an actual environment and realize there are tons of additional skills employers expect you to understand. What Cisco appears to be doing is closing that gap. They're aligning the certification more closely with what modern engineers are actually doing every day. And that's something I think benefits everyone. Now, if you're someone trying to break into networking, this should be encouraging. When you look at job postings today, employers aren't just looking for someone who understands VLANs and routing protocols. They're looking for people who understand troubleshooting, security, cloud environments, automation, operational processes. The industry has evolved, and the certification is evolving alongside it. Now, before we wrap up this video, the biggest mistake is focusing too much on the changes coming in 2027 and not enough building network fundamentals today. I've already seen people asking if they should stop studying. I've seen people asking if they should wait. I've seen people worrying that they are learning the wrong material. And honestly, I think that's the wrong mindset. The fundamentals of networking are not going away. IP addressing isn't going away, subnetting isn't going away, switching and routing isn't going away. These concepts remain the foundation of modern networking. Whether you're working in a traditional enterprise environment, cloud environment, a cybersecurity role, or even automation-focused position, those fundamentals still matter, and they always will. The people who will benefit most from CCNA 2.0 are probably the people who already have strong networking fundamentals. That's why my recommendation is simple. If you're studying for the current CCNA, just keep studying. Don't wait, don't pause, don't convince yourself that you need to start over. Keep building your foundation, because that foundation will still be valuable when the new certification arrives. In fact, I would argue that earning the current CCNA before the new version launches could actually put you in a stronger position. You will already understand the fundamentals. Then you can build additional skills on top of the foundation as the industry continues to evolve. So, should you wait for CCNA 2.0? My answer is no. Continue studying, continue learning, and continue building your skills. The current certification remains valuable, the knowledge remains valuable, and networking remains one of the most important skills in IT. At the end of the day, the new CCNA isn't about replacing networking. It's about modernizing it. It's Cisco acknowledging that today's engineers need more than just routing and switching. They need troubleshooting skills, they need security awareness, they need automation knowledge, and they need to understand how AI is becoming a part of modern operations. Overall, I think Cisco made the right move. The new CCNA looks more aligned with the real world than ever before. But now, I want to hear from you. Are you currently studying for the CCNA? Are you planning to take the current version before 2027? Or are you waiting for CCNA 2.0? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're currently studying, type, I'm still studying. I want to see how many people are staying the course instead of waiting. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a future networking, cybersecurity, and all about tech video. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.